All right, today we're going to talk about something that's kind of like the invisible architecture of our work lives, organizational design. Think of it as your company's blueprint. It dictates everything, who you report to, how decisions get made, and it's the key to a little mystery we're about to solve.
I mean, have you ever felt that? You walk into one company and it just feels like a fortress, so structured, so predictable, with clear rules for literally everything. But then you go to another and it's like a lab, just buzzing with energy and collaboration and constant change. Well, that difference? It's not an accident. It's totally by design.
So, how are we going to crack this case? Here's the game plan. We'll start with the blueprint idea. Then we'll look at the 6 essential building blocks that every manager uses. We'll compare that fortress to the lab, uncover the secret to finding the right fit, and finally, look at what this all means for the future of work. Ready? Let's jump in.
Okay, first up, the 6 building blocks. These are the fundamental pieces, the core decisions that create every single organizational structure out there. You can really think of them as the DNA of a company's design.
And here they are. These 6 elements basically answer all the big questions for any company. Who does what? Who reports to whom? And who gets to make the final call? You know, every single manager, whether they realize it or not, is making decisions about these 6 things. Let's zoom in on a couple of the really critical ones to get a feel for it.
Okay, first, the chain of command. You know what this is. It's that classic line on an org chart. It's really all about one thing: clarity. Who do you go to when there's a problem? Who signs off on your work? It's based on this old idea of unity of command, which is just a fancy way of saying you should only have one boss, right? It just avoids getting mixed signals and total confusion.
Now this is a huge trade-off that every single company has to grapple with. Centralization is when the top bosses make all the key calls. It gives you incredible control and consistency. But man, can it be slow. Decentralization pushes that power down the ladder, letting teams on the ground move fast and respond to things right away. So what's it going to be? Do you want tight control or do you want speed? Because it's really tough to have both.
So what happens when you start playing with those 6 building blocks? When you mix and match them? Well, you usually end up with one of 2 classic structures. And this brings us right back to our original mystery: the fortress versus the lab.
Yeah, this table really nails the differences. On one side, you have the mechanistic fortress, super rigid, lots of rules, all top-down, and on the other, the organic lab, much flatter, flexible, and empowered. One is built for stable, predictable worlds. The other is made for chaos and change. Let's dig a little deeper into each one.
All right, so the mechanistic fortress, its middle name is efficiency. You've got high specialization, meaning everybody does one thing and they do it over and over. You have narrow spans of control, so managers are watching fewer people, but they're watching them very closely. It's all designed for predictability, and that's why it's the go-to model for places like government agencies or huge factories where consistency is king.
And then you have the organic lab. And yeah, it's pretty much the total opposite. This thing is built for adaptation. You don't have rigid jobs, you have cross-functional teams. Information doesn't just trickle down from the top, it flows everywhere. It's all about sparking innovation and being able to pivot on a dime, which is why it's the natural habitat for tech startups or R&D teams. You know, places where the next big idea is everything.
Okay, so we've got our 2 main suspects, the fortress and the lab. But how does a company actually choose? And why isn't there just one perfect way to do it for everyone? This, my friends, is where we get to the real secret.
All right, this is the question, right? What really decides whether your company should be a fortress or a lab? Is it just whatever the CEO feels like that day? Nope, not even close.
The answer has a name. It's called contingency theory. And it's a really simple but super powerful idea. The best structure is contingent on, or depends on, the situation. There's no single best design. There's only the design that fits the situation.
And what shapes that situation? Well, it usually comes down to these 4 big things. What's the company's strategy? How big is it? What kind of tech are they using? And what's the world like outside their walls? Is it stable or is it constantly shifting? Get these 4 right and you'll know exactly which blueprint to use.
Let's play this out. Let's make it real. So, what if a company's entire reason for being is innovation? I mean, their whole strategy is about being creative and being the first to market with some new, groundbreaking idea.
Well, it's pretty obvious, right? They're going to need that flexible, organic lab structure. A rigid, rule-heavy fortress would just crush the creativity they need to survive. The structure has to support the strategy, not kill it.
Okay, now let's flip the script. Imagine a huge company.
We're talking thousands of employees, in a market that hasn't changed in years. Their main goal is to just efficiently pump out a standardized product for millions of people.
For them, a mechanistic fortress is pretty much the only way to go. You need rules, you need hierarchy, you need clear processes to make sure everyone's on the same page and quality stays high. Trying to run that like a startup would be absolute chaos, a total disaster.
All right, that brings us to our final piece of the puzzle, structure for the future. Because understanding this stuff isn't just theory, it's absolutely essential in the wild world of business today.
And here's maybe the biggest takeaway of all. See, in the real world, almost no one is purely one or the other. The smart companies, they're hybrids. They might have a super mechanistic, efficient manufacturing floor to guarantee quality, but then their R&D department, just down the hall, is a totally organic, flexible lab designed to dream up the future.
You know, this quote just sums it up perfectly. The real skill, the art of it, is being a good architect. It's about choosing the right mix of control and freedom, of rules and flexibility to match your company's unique situation. Get that fit right and everything just hums.
So we'll leave you with this question to think about. Now that you have the tools, you know the building blocks, you know the models, take a hard look at your own organization. Is it a fortress, a lab, or some kind of hybrid? And the million-dollar question is that the right blueprint for where you need to go tomorrow?